So I have to substitute there. So this part becomes V dash of E upon U dash of W. Okay, this part becomes, right, okay, V dash of E upon U dash of W, right. So, and what does this then become? Because one of these U dash of W's will go, this will become U dash of, so this will become U dash of W cubed, right? Okay, right. So this part then becomes, so this is nothing but, so this whole term is then nothing but minus of V dash of E, V double dash of E plus right. Okay. So now we have to substitute this here. I put a minus already, so I have to substitute this here. So my whole equation becomes summation xi plus, because that whole minus term is, okay, plus this whole term becomes okay, right. Now mind you, what is V double dash of E, negative or positive? What is V double dash of E, negative or positive?
Negative.
No, positive. Because V double dash of E is the increase in the disutility with respect to effort. And we said that as you put in more effort, disutility increases at a faster rate. Right, so V double dash of E is, what is V double dash of E, positive or negative? Positive. What is U dash of W, positive or negative? Positive.
That's V dash of E the whole square.
Yeah. V dash of E the is V dash of E the whole square. Yes. V dash of E the, yeah. V dash of E the whole square. You're right. Okay. V dash of E the whole square. Right. So friends. So tell me one thing. Right. What is V double dash of E? So this is positive. This is positive. Okay, so this ratio is positive, which means that this is negative. This term is negative. Okay, what can you say about U double dash of W? V dash of E0 square will be positive, necessarily, right? U double dash of W is what? Positive or negative? Negative, because decreasing marginal utility. Right? So this term is positive. Right? This term is negative. Right? U dash of W is positive. Marginal utility of wages. So this is positive. So this is positive, this is positive, this is negative. So this term is negative, this term is negative. For the whole term to be negative, then we want this to be negative. Which means that if P double dash of E0 xi is negative, then we can be sure that this whole term, the second derivative of the objective with respect to E is negative. Do you get the point? So if this second term is negative, right? Because we know that this whole term is negative, because U double dash of W is negative. This is negative, because this is positive, so the minus term. This is negative. So this is a negative term minus some quantity. So this is say minus 7, minus 8. The whole thing is negative only if this term is negative. So as long as P double dash of E upon into xi is negative, we know that the first derivative with respect to effort is positive, the second with respect to effort is negative, right? And therefore what we have really got is an optimum with respect to effort. Right? The way we have solved this problem is right, right? So what we require for this solution to be right, to determine the optimal level of effort and the optimal level of wages in that optimal contract, is that the second derivative of the objective function with respect to E should be negative, right? That is, and that requires that summation Pi double dash E0 xi. This quantity must be negative. And that's an assumption we'll make. If this is negative, everything works. If this is not negative, then we are not sure whether our derivative with respect to the effort level gives you the optimal effort. It's only a necessary condition, not a sufficient condition. Everybody gets that? Right? So what will happen if the agents, so in this case, suppose my agent increases reservation utility. What do you think will happen to the optimal contract? So I have for example something like this. Okay, this is the equilibrium, right? This is U bar. This is W in equilibrium, E0 WC. What if my agent gets an alternative opportunity which is better? How do you think the optimal contract will change? Yeah? So, if the agent's reservation utility changes, my curve will shift downwards, right? Which will mean that the new contract will have to offer a lower effort level and a higher wage rate. A new effort level and a higher wage rate, right? Now, tell me something. What's happening all over Europe is change in work conditions. People are working fewer hours and getting paid better. Right? When do you think that will happen? So what is it that's necessary for people to be paid better and work fewer hours? Whereas why do, for example, people in the unorganized sector work very hard and get paid little? Right? So can you now explain from this picture why that must be happening? Because there are no alternative opportunities. So one way of ensuring of increasing better income for everybody is to provide a lot of alternative opportunities. So you provide a lot of alternative opportunities, the optimal contracts change. Right? So one way of making labor better off is not necessarily, if you want to really improve the condition of wages, then there are two possible solutions. One is, of course, you have a demand curve for labor and a supply curve for labor, right? And what we typically do is, this is the wage rate. We say that we are going to mandate a minimum wage rate, right? Suppose that minimum wage rate is above the market wage rate. Then what does that do? That is create, this much is the demand for labor, this much is the supply for labor, so this is the amount of number of workers who are unemployed, right? So if you actually have a minimum wage rate, you give a higher wage employment to many people, some people, but you also leave some people unemployed because they are looking for work, but there isn't enough work. Right? Because the equilibrium condition works like this, right? Whereas if you mandate if the wage rate is lower than the equilibrium wage rate, it doesn't matter anyway, because the employer is going to offer you. So in particular, so one argument that could be made is, if you want to make workers better off, minimum wages might not be the correct way of doing it, because minimum wages at the worst will be irrelevant, at the best would actually create unemployment, might give good jobs to some people, good wages to some people, also leave some others unemployed. So better way would really be to create better employment opportunities, create better alternative employment opportunities, so that you actually see as the reservation utility of people goes up, you actually in equilibrium you will have higher wages and lower effort levels. Right? But that's what. So what does that mean? That means that per hour wage for people goes up. That everybody earning more per hour. But what's a per hour wage? Nothing but productivity, or nothing but, so basically, if the amount of labor, you earn more per amount of labor you put in, or you have higher per capita incomes. Right? You earn more per every hour, right? But that's alternative way of saying is that you have higher productivity. So actually one way of generating more productive labor force is actually also to create a lot of employment opportunities. Right? This is going to be very relevant because currently we are debating reforms in the labor markets. We are saying what kind of reform should we have? Should we do away with minimum wages legislations, etc.? And as economists, you should always have a good economics argument to be able to talk about this. Okay, so it's always good to have, you can always talk in terms of some emotionally relevant arguments. What will you do? And of course the poor should get better off, right? All that's nice, right? It shows that your heart is in the right place. But you also need to have, as economists, you also need to have your heads in the right place. Right? Okay, so that's why. And the other lesson, of course, is that when I saw all these derivatives coming, I saw some of your interest drooping because you started to realize it's all becoming only formal and doesn't have any relationship with the real world, but it does. Now, ultimately, what it led to you is, but for which what is important is you need to have this condition. This has to be less than 0. P double dash of E0 into Xi has to be less than 0, right? Less than 0. Then it's a necessary and a sufficient condition. Okay? So you see why this is important? Okay. So the second, now but this worked only for one case. This worked where the laborers was, where the agent was risk neutral and where the principal was risk neutral and the agent was risk averse. Now we need to flip the condition. Right? We need to flip the condition. Okay, and then finally we need to work out the more complicated situation where both of them are risk averse. Right? You see, that's why economic policy is a difficult business. Right? It's not easy. Right? You'll find when the budgets are in the corner, all sorts of people telling you about all sorts of things to do in the labor market. You should have these reforms, etc., etc. Right? But the reason it doesn't work is because it's difficult to solve for the optimal effort levels, optimal contracts when the wage levels, and when agents and the principals are risk averse, and then when the wage cannot really be fully monitored, so you have all sorts of asymmetric information problems. So contracting is difficult. Okay? Right. So we now come to a situation where this is a bit of a simpler problem. Okay. So now, what happens if the principal is risk averse and the agent is risk neutral? What happens if the principal is risk averse and the agent is risk neutral? Yeah? Franchisee. That is, Kentucky Fried Chicken is risk averse, and you, who are running a garment shop but now want to start a Kentucky Fried Chicken shop in Bandra, are actually risk neutral. Okay? So that you actually run a franchisee. You say that you will pay a certain amount to Kentucky Fried Chicken every day of every month. So let that be called K. Okay? Let that be called a K. Right? So what's your wage contract? Your wage contract simply is the optimal wage irrespective of the outcome, or depends upon Xi, which is Xi minus K. Yeah? What is the wage you get? Whatever is the outcome. Whatever is the Kentucky Fried Chicken you sell, minus whatever proceeds you give to the, minus a fixed amount which you give to the parent Kentucky Fried Chicken company. Right? Or you start a McDonald's franchisee, and whatever profits you, whatever amount of McDonald's you sell, minus a fixed amount which you give to McDonald's. That is your wage as an agent. Right? So what is the problem now? The principal's problem now is quite simple. The principal, as long as the effort level has to be fixed, you have. So what are you deciding? Maximize over E Pi of E right? What is the first order condition? Can you tell me what the first order condition would now be? High time you will be able to tell me what the first order condition. summation Pi dash E0 xi is equal to P dash E0. Right? Okay? What is the second order? Okay. When is this optimal? When is optimal? So you solve this, right? When is the solution that you get from this E0 optimal solution? When the second derivative is negative. So what is the second derivative? So second derivative condition is, right, minus, and you want this to be less than or equal to 0, right? Now, what is V double dash of E? Positive or negative? Positive. The harder you work, the more you dislike work. Right? Okay, sometimes many people won't believe this because they say harder you work, the easier it becomes, and if you actually start enjoying it. Right? If you're a classical singer, for example, and if you practice the raga again and again and again, you're not probably able to sing it better and better and better, and probably you might enjoy it more and more and more, but this theory doesn't apply to that kind of work. It applies to not creative work, but simple work, which is a lot of drudging. Right? Like if you're a mason, if you're building a wall, then presumably the more walls you build, the more tired you feel, and more you dislike building an additional wall. Right? So this is negative. If this is negative, what will guarantee this condition? If this is negative. Right? What guarantees this condition? If this is negative. Okay? Right. Now, in the next class, we have to take the challenge, which is not there in this book, of how to actually solve for a problem when both are risk averse and how to solve for the optimal effort level. Right? But what our first corner story has told us is a little bit useful. It says that as policy, it might not necessarily be the right thing to ensure to make people better off, make workers better off. It might not necessarily always be correct to improve, to have a minimum wage legislation. A better way is to actually create a lot of employment alternative opportunities. Right? So if you, for example, have people who are working as masons, right? Okay. Then a good idea would be to, if you really wanted to protect the workers' interest, instead of making it compulsory for people to pay a minimum wage to masons, you actually must also create an avenue where masons can actually become, say, DTP operators. Right, which will mean that the optimal contracts will involve a higher wage and lower effort. Okay, higher wage and lower effort. Right, in fact, look at the unorganized sector labor market. Right, do you think, for example, ask yourself a question. Do you think it is true that domestic helps are now working fewer hours and are actually getting better wage rates? Do you think it's true? And do you think if it is true, because ultimately you have a situation where you can monitor the effort completely, right? That's where there is no moral hazard because the effort level is clearly seen. It's ultimately clearing certain burdens and cleaning your house, right? Okay, so it's an effort level which can exactly be monitored, right? Okay, so you have perfect information, right? Now, why are better and better contracts being written? Is it because women in the unorganized sector are getting now more and more job opportunities? Have different things emerged, right? See, currently because the government is thinking of a law which says that you must pay a minimum wage to domestic servants, right? You must pay